welcome to this episode of Read, Play, Game, the podcast where we look at tabletop role-playing games from every side of the table. I'm Emma Skaggs, and I will be GMing this arc.
I'm Anish, and I'll be playing this arc.
I'm Tori. I'll be gaming.
And I'm Mikey. I'll be playing.
For people tuning in for the first time, this is the first of three parts that make up the structure of this podcast, the read portion. We won't just be reading, though. We'll be walking through the character creation process of an RPG that we've selected for this arc, talking through the rules as we go. This will be followed by later episodes where we play through a short arc using these characters and then reflect on the system. Feel free to listen to whichever of these interests you, and feel free to skip whichever ones don't. You may have realized at this point, our usual rules lawyer is on a well-earned sabbatical after hitting the necessary billable hours for the year. Instead, that's Emma here, will be serving as both GM and rules, we'll call it paralegal today. And a good game to play without a rules lawyer because it's a little fast and loose over here. We are playing Troika, which is a science fantasy game designed by Daniel Sell, published by the Melsonian Arts Council in London, which was recommended to me by a coworker of mine at the science museum where I work, who does not believe that bones exist.
And works at the museum.
Yeah.
Maybe they know something I don't.
That's what I'm saying.
They're working in the bone manufacturing part of the museum.
They're like, you don't want to get into all that.
What do they think? I mean, how...
I mean, I don't think it's real, but at no point will their resolve break on the bit.
It's not a bit, though.
It's not a bit, though. They don't believe that bones are real.
And if somebody were to say, what do you think supports your
argument
and keeps you from falling over to gravity?
Well, luckily, this person is traveling a lot, so they can kind of avoid those conversations. He also listens to the podcast, so shout out. I'm not going to say your name, so then the other people that you work with who listen to the podcast don't have to know that you don't believe in bones. Troika is a Russian word. It refers to a vehicle that is being pulled by 3 horses. It can also refer to a management style where a manager is managing 3 members of a team. So I think it's kind of cute that we have 3 players this game, symbolically. It's fun. And then, just to get us into what science fantasy kind of refers to, does anyone want to read the introductory paragraph of the rule book?
You're reading a tabletop role-playing game in which one player takes part of the game master, prepares the world, and controls the people and peril in that world, while the other players create characters on a journey through that same world. You now have the context and key terms to explore the medium independently, and nothing I say here can fully instruct you on what is a deep and rich form of entertainment on par with cinema or fly fishing. Treat it as you would any new hobby. Beyond that, what you have here is Troika, a science fantasy RPG in which players travel by Eldritch Portal and non-Euclidean labyrinth on golden-sailed barge between the uncountable crystal spheres strung delicately across the humpbacked sky. What you encounter on those spheres and in those liminal places is anybody's guess. I wouldn't presume to tell you, though inside this book, you will find people and artifacts from these worlds which will suggest the shape of things. The adventure and wonder are in the gaps. Your game is defined by the ways in which you fill them.
Did that make sense to anybody? I have written down in my notes, what does this mean?
Just thought the tone was a little too cheeky. I didn't like it.
I have a feeling, as long as we're cutting things, I have a feeling, Tori, you will hit a lot of walls with this game because we're coming in strong. Because I remember Jamais Vu. I think Mike was describing, like, what do you do next? And then you were like, you tell me. This game is entirely we make it and fill in connections, I feel like. No.
So
sit down.
That is very clearly what it's implying with the gaps. However, the rule book I found reading through it directed at the GM very much. Like, when we look at like Heart, the rules imply very heavily what this world is. This world is anything you make it, which has inspired a ton of fan projects and a ton of modules that people have created. They encourage that. They say that you can do that. You have to put like a label on it in terms of like it's not directly affiliated with the Melsonian Arts Council, but it is compatible with the Troika rules. But you'll see like a quick search found me like 50 different modules that were fan made in this game. Yeah, because the Humpback Sky. What I got from listening. Oh, I see a question. Yes.
Is this like reminiscent of like Discworld?
I don't know Discworld, unfortunately.
Great question.
Mikey, I think you can explain this sort of.
I mean, so Discworld is kind of this big series by Terry Pratchett of all of these different stories on an interconnected kind of universe that supported this gigantic world that's supported on the back of two elephants on the back of a giant turtle floating through space.
Yeah, I hear Humpback Sky and I literally think, is this just a bunch of crystal balls?
I think of Treasure Planet when they're in space and those gigantic whale things are floating beside them.
Yeah.
What I'm understanding from reading the whole rule book through and kind of trying to piece together the little hints that are given, and this is where the game is defined in the ways which you fill those gaps, is another GM might have read the rule book and come up with an entirely different interpretation of the world. But what I understand is this universe, the entirety of existence that any of the characters are aware of, exists within the belly of a giant humpback whale. And within this like ether inside the humpback whale's belly, there are these crystal spheres that connect to different worlds, different dimensions. Some people can travel between them, similar to space travel. Some of the inhabitants of these dimensions are like stuck in their realms. So that's why it opens up to a lot of fan projects, because you can create a game that is entirely contained with one of those crystal realms. You know, like you can pick any tone, any time period, put them there with the knowledge that maybe beings from another realm might come in at some point, you know, because that travel is possible, just not necessarily for everyone. Like you need the technology.
Is this the game with, it's got eye ladies? The like,
I gotta say, I don't know what you're referencing here.
The Eye Ladies.
Of
eye
course.
ladies nuts on your face.
Okay.
That is what I was thinking of the entire time we were talking. I think I get it. I think once we talk about more specifics, it'll like...
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's like, some games you'll be traveling between spheres. Some games you'll be doing a lot of that. But since we're doing a short game, I'm mostly contained in one situation.
Oh, but this is like more than a one shot. Like people would play this like...
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
However, you can die pretty easily. Character creation is entirely random. You don't pick your backstory, you roll for it. The first page of the rule book beyond the introduction is character creation, and it's just like 5 steps, 1 sentence each step. It's all roll, 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 roll. So it's all random. While we are building characters today, we're going to talk about the rules as we go through, so we have a better idea of the vocabulary that we'll be using when we're playing. Troika only uses D6s. They can be used as a D3, a D6, D66, a D666, and so on. For example, when you're rolling a D66, you roll both of them. One is the tens place, one is the ones place. So it's not actually 66 options. It's 36 options. But I think that's just a way to simplify the dice that you're using. But most of the time when you're rolling, I see Tori doing the math in their head.
I guess you can't get like a 5, right? The lowest you could get is like an 11.
So if one is the tens place and one is the ones place, you can get you can get like an 11 to 16. You can get a 21 to 26.
No 5. Okay.
Yeah. But most of the time what we'll be rolling is just 2d6 and adding them together. There's 2 types of rolls that happen all the time. That's rolling unopposed. That's like essentially the same as a skill check in other games. You roll 2d6 and you're trying to roll low. And then there's also rolling versus, which is like combat. So both parties would roll 2d6 and you're trying to roll high. This is all under the cheat sheet that I created, which was a little too long for Tori to read the label on. But Tori, do you think that you could read that right now
Yeah.
for the class.
Playing Troika, a cheat sheet for players who hate to read. And I
There we
saw
go.
a cheat sheet for it, and I was like, yeah, I get it. It's a cheat sheet. I didn't even read the end of the sentence.
So yeah, rolling
I
unopposed.
assumed it was like a cheat sheet for players who are ready to jump in. Like I knew the sentence was going somewhere, but I figured I had the important information. And I just kept going.
And look, you did, right? Rolling unopposed, rolling versus. Everybody's on board for that.
I'm reading. Yes. Mm-hmm.
You're
I
reading.
mean,
the
I
cheat sheet.
will
Yes.
ask questions about it later, but hypothetically, I understand. Yes.
Absolutely. Love it. With those rolling unopposed, you're trying to roll low. What are you rolling against? You're rolling against your skill value. When you build a character, which we're going to do right now, everybody roll a 1d3, which is you roll a d6 and then you cut it in half, round up.
I got a 2.
Love it. And you add 3 to that number, and that's your base skill level. So everybody, what's your base skill level?
5.
My base skill is 5.
5.
4.
4. Did you roll a 4? Or did you roll
I rolled
one?
a 2, so minus divided in half is 1.
Damn.
Plus 3 is 4. Yeah.
Damn. Y'all got some low skill levels. This will be good.
This game.
I mean, the high skill level is 6, right?
No, because high skill level is 6. So true.
It's a lot of math. My God.
Luckily, so that's why we're just doing this for the character creation. The rolling doesn't have all of this later as much. I know it's hard to divide.
Give me to a different crystal sphere.
Okay. Once you get your character background, which we'll get a little bit later, you'll get specific skills. They call them advanced skills that you'll get bonus for. So like if you're really good at lock picking, you'll get a +6 to lock picking. So your total is that 6 and your base skill level. I'm seeing confusion. I'm seeing concern.
I'm listening. I'm just thinking.
And
let me
be
get somewhere
writing
to write
this
some shit
down.
Yeah.
Yes. This is we are in character creation. We are writing down stats.
Is it gonna fuck us up if I use my computer to print something? Can I unplug my mic and plug it back in, or no?
You can just print it real quick.
Okay, I'm gonna just keep the mic with me.
If I understand correctly, we have separate expertise in things. And so the idea is if we're rolling a skill check, our expertise adds on to our base skill.
Exactly.
So that we have a higher number to roll lower than.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Right. Cool. So kind of similar to how we did with, stuff like lasers and feelings, like if you roll over something versus like rolling below.
Cool.
Exactly.
I guess that makes sense too, because if you're trying to roll under a skill, the higher your skill is in that, the easier it is to roll under. And rolling versus trying to roll high. Yeah, I think that all makes perfect sense.
It's like if you add your expertise to your base skill, you'll have a higher number from which you can roll more likely something lower than the higher number.
Yeah. Look at that. We're wrapping our head around it. We're wrapping our heads around it.
It's sort of like
It's sort of like you're building a higher threshold that you can roll under. When
It's
you're
like
specifically, this is when you're rolling unopposed. That's an important point.
Yeah, because when you're rolling versus, you're trying to roll higher than the other person. And that's when your added skills help you roll a higher number.
Yeah, that if you're rolling versus your added skills, that number gets added to your roll. So it can be used both ways. But your base skill level does not get added to that roll.
Who here did Math Olympiad?
Not me.
Not me. I did. I hated it.
I was going to parties.
I bet.
In middle school? In elementary school?
Yeah, we would play Rock Band.
Anyway, sorry.
Okay.
Where were we? I've printed my character sheet.
So you have rolled your skill level and you've written it down?
Yeah, but
Obviously.
Love it. And did you catch any of that about when and how you will use that number?
Yeah, something about rolling opposed, and we want to create a threshold. And I'll do it when we get to there. I'll get it.
So
Can I tell you the theorem behind it? Like, no, but
It's
if you just tell me what I need to roll. I'll get it to you.
I love that. Okay. This is not a game where there are specific skills like D&D, where there's like a certain number of skills, and those are all that you can get. There's like a ton of possible skills. You will all get, probably each background has about 5 advanced skills, and then there's the possibility to learn more, but you can make up your own as well. Like if you meet someone who's really good at face painting and you want to learn that, you can make that an advanced skill later. We're going to roll for stamina next. So roll 2d6 and then add 12. And that's your starting stamina.
I got 2 6s.
You have 24. That's a really good number.
Yeah! I hope I didn't peak my mic.
I am going to make a compilation of y'all doing mental math for us to post because the faces that everyone is making.
Okay, since you're so smart, what's 9 plus 12?
9 plus 12 is 21.
21?
You probably had a calculator on you. Nobody can do math like that without a
Okay,
calculator.
so you have a 21. Anish, what do you have?
If my math is correct, I think I got a 16.
Damn.
I rolled a 4.
Damn. Okay.
Damn.
Stamina. This is your health. When you run out of stamina, you need to be healed or you will die like very, very soon. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we go over how initiative works, but it is bad to run out of stamina. You don't get 3 death saves or anything like that. You can regain stamina by sleeping for 8 hours. You get 2d6 back. By eating a provision, certain foods count as a provision. You all start with some provisions on you. And then I'm also allowed to just offer other types of healing. They give examples of like drinking potions, going to public bathhouses, like doing relaxing things. And when you die, you just immediately roll a new character. They say you may immediately roll a new character while others mourn your loss and fight over your possessions. That new character is introduced at the next possible moment.
So true.
That's cool.
So fucking true. I love that they wrote what would happen in real life.
Yeah.
Because that is what always happens.
Damn. Okay, everybody's written down their stamina.
Yeah.
And then, oh, yes.
I'm just seeing the 2 spaces. Is this going to be like current hit points versus like total or?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can't ever go above that stamina that you just rolled.
Got it.
Luck is the number that changes the most throughout the game. So let's go ahead and roll for luck. What do you roll for your starting luck? Roll 1d6 and add 6 to determine your starting luck. So the max that you can have to start is 12.
I got a 1.
So you start with 7.
Mm-hmm.
9.
9.
9.
Cool. So we've gone over like skill checks. Those skills are also used for combat. Stamina is health. Luck is what's used for essentially like saving throws. So there will be times where I ask you to test your luck, or I ask you if you want to test your luck is really how it works. When you test your luck, it would be something like, okay, you hear a creaking sound above you and a small pebble falls on your head. Do you want to test your luck? And you can decide yes, or you can say, nah, I'm just going to take the consequences of this roof probably collapsing on me. You roll 2d6 and you're trying to get under your current luck score. So, Mikey, you're not in the best position right now.
Yep.
You can also test your luck if you have a tie in combat. You can test your luck to bump that up and beat the tie. However, every time you choose to roll to test your luck, regardless of the outcome, you have to lower your luck score by 1. So it gets harder to test your luck every time you do it. Now, when you run out of luck, nothing bad happens. I think they say that there's no additional penalty. It just means that you can't test your luck anymore. You will fail. Unlucky things will happen to you.
I'm also jotting down what we have to roll for each of these. So if I die, hypothetically, I won't need to stop everybody and I can just generate the numbers.
Love it. That's a great idea. I'll add that to my cheat sheet for next time. You can get luck back after a long rest. You roll 2d6 and add that luck. And it's not capped like your stamina. So you're not stuck at a starting luck of 9. You can go higher than that at the end of a long rest, essentially.
Now, can we farm luck?
Just like sleep for a really long time?
What if we just like keep sleeping?
I don't think there's any rule against that. I wonder if, let me check if there's a cap for it to be 12. You know, like I think that's probably the cap.
I'm already breaking this game. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's take
Well,
8 consecutive naps.
Here's what I think I would probably do to you in that situation is I'd start making just bad things happen around you every time you go to take a nap. So then it's like, do you want to test your luck before you go to sleep?
It's just like real life. That's crazy.
Yeah. if you sleep too long, you start to get groggy. Cool. They also put an optional rule in there for if you feel like the game is too fatal, you can test your luck instead of dying. You know, like you can have one last chance.
Baby mode.
Yeah. However, if your luck is low,
Baby
that would be
mode.
even sadder. I don't know. We'll see how it feels when we're playing. Okay. The next thing that we are rolling is, I believe,
Armor.
Armor is the next thing that we're rolling, which goes really well into our talk about initiative and combat. Oh, no, we're not rolling armor. That comes from your possessions. Those are the only 3 things that you're rolling: skill, stamina, and luck. Well, I say that. You will roll for your background, and that will give you everything else. Before we do that, since we've talked about what stamina is, let's talk about fighting. Initiative rules in this game are pretty wild. I think they're very fun. They're meant to add to the uncertainty and confusion of combat. So when you get into a fight or in a situation where like the order of operations is really important, like time is of the essence, you're doing a collaborative action, I get to build an initiative stack, which is a little pouch, and it has tokens in it representing everyone involved. I shake it up and I take the tokens out, and that is the order in which action happens. So each of you has a 2 for initiative. All player characters have a 2. So you will get 2 tokens in this pouch. I have colorful paper that I'm going to cut strips of and put into a pouch. What color do y'all want to be?
Yellow.
Okay.
Blue.
Green.
Tori is yellow.
Oh my God, y'all. When I went to that karaoke party last night, I was like an hour late and I showed up. I was like, how long's the queue? And like, meanwhile, nobody was like, I was like, me next. And like, everybody was like, okay. Like, literally nobody moved.
I'm going to go ahead and cut y'all's initiative sheets. And then all enemies have the same color. And I get to decide, like, if you're in a fight with a bunch of different enemy types and I roll an enemy one, I get to pick who's going.
So like if there's a giant dragon and then like a little blorbo and you put the 2 tokens in the bag and you pull out one, you can choose the dragon instead of the little guy?
I can always choose the dragon. Yes.
Damn.
Now, I like this. They say within that, because also the dragon will probably have a much higher initiative than the blorbo. So there could be 16 tokens in there for the dragon, and then an additional 2 for the blorbo. And when I'm drawing it, I get to pick whether blorbo or dragon axe. And they say, obviously, this can be abused for mechanical gain on the GM's part. Never do this. Your goal is not to beat the players, but to challenge and surprise them. So it might be the case where like dragon goes, dragon goes, dragon goes. And then I'm like, and then Blorbo gives you a kiss on the cheek. It's what feels reasonable. The initiative numbers are also not necessarily tied to speed for enemies. They give the description of the dragon's initiative is high, not because it's fast, but because it knows what it wants to do. So like cowardice, like fear, what's the word? Indecision, all of that goes into the initiative numbers. You can also have buddies. They each get, I think, 1 in there.
Party pets.
We have your colors. What color do y'all want for enemies?
I mean, red's a classic.
Red is a classic.
Yeah.
And then there's one more color that goes in there, and that is for the end of round token. There is 1 end of round token. So not everybody will necessarily have all of their turns in each round. And this is what I meant with the stamina thing. When you run out of stamina, your buddies or yourself, if it goes to your turn again, have until that end of round token is pulled to save you. If you are at 0 stamina when the end of the round happens, you are dead.
Copy.
Uh-oh.
I'm seeing a sour face on Tori.
This game. What do you mean I might not have my turn?
Well, if the round goes really fast, then it'll be a new round. So when the end of round token is pulled, all the tokens go back unless somebody dies and then they get taken out. And then it's just a new round.
Theoretically, there could be like an hour-long combat where nobody, like one person does not get pulled because the end of round token.
Yes. I will say, though, Theoretically, yes. There could be a round where only y'all act. There could be a round where only enemies act. There is a optional rule to cap the number of enemy tokens at double the player tokens, which I think I'll probably do just to keep things simple and fast. And actions happen pretty quickly in this initiative term. Like, it's not, you don't have an action and a movement and a bonus action. You can't do like a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
They assume that some movement will happen with whatever action you take, and then they give options for the action. So on your cheat sheet, on the back, it's all combat and initiative. So I have the order of initiative blurb that just redefines what I just described. And then it's what can I do with my turns? And I've given quick descriptions for each one. And then I know what the rolling is for that. So on your turn, you get to do one action. You can hit someone, which is just like close range fighting. You can shoot someone, which is far, like ranged fighting. You can cast a spell. This depends on if you have spells from your background, which we'll get into. You can delay your turn, which does not mean you can choose when you go. It means your token goes back into the pouch. Tori's like, I'm never going to fucking do that.
Well, no. I'm also looking at find an item, which is interesting. It feels like a hard stance on, like, sometimes you can be a little lenient when a player's like, okay, well, I use my blank. And it's like, oh, you had that? It's like, yeah, I've had that since blah, 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 blah. So the fact you have to like get your weapon or your potion or whatever it is out is kind of like strict.
Yeah, this gets even more specific. And that is the next thing we're going to go over. However, the good thing about that is when you find an item, if you do it successfully, you immediately use it. It's like within that turn. And if you are unsuccessful, it just takes the turn to find it and then you have it and you can use it on your next turn. Move is for if you are specifically like chasing someone. I could also see it being like, I want to climb on top of something. And that is what I want to do for my action. So general movement is assumed, but like specific targeted movement, if you're going to do a ton with it, that would be an action. We talked a little bit about finding an item. Using an item, you can just roll to use it. Oftentimes in combat, that's going to be to hit someone or to shoot someone. And then wrestle is a specific thing. It's like a grapple situation. And there are specific rolling stuff for that in terms of what you add to it. So with that in mind, and your question, Tori, we're going to skip ahead to talk a little bit about possessions and how that works with finding an item.
If you die in combat, do you immediately make a new character and they like swoop in like Ex Machina? Or
I think it would depend on the situation. You would immediately roll a new character and then like I'd probably, I mean, it's the beginning of a round. I'd probably put your tokens back in, shake it up, and then once your turn happens, your new character would run in. Or would be introduced in some unique way. If it was a situation where like the room is sealed, nobody's getting in and out, I'd probably wait until combat was over, but it just kind of depends on the vibe.
Okay.
So possessions, write these down, but do not write these down in your inventory. Have like a scrap piece of paper where you're going to write all your possessions down, which your starting possessions are a knife, a rucksack, a lantern, a flask of oil. You have 6 provisions and 2d6 silver pence. So you can roll for how much silver you have.
I have 2 silver.
Aw.
2d6, you said?
Yeah, 2d6.
I have 7.
6.
Love it. So yeah, jot down all of these. That in game is what we would call a fumble, which I'll get to later.
Womp womp.
So these are all like what everybody has. If you roll a new character, they will also have this. You will get more possessions through your background. And then if you pick stuff up as you're exploring, you can also add them to your inventory. You can have 12 things at once, which the 6 provisions kind of count as one thing. It's like a bag of food. They also give that example with like, you're not going to count individual arrows. You have arrows, and that is one thing. Some things that you'll get in your background might be large, and they take up 2 slots, like heavy armor takes up a decent amount. But here's what's really important. In your inventory, it's got placements between 1 and 12. You have to pack your bag, essentially. So the important things that you might need to get to really fast, that's stuff like your weapons. You want that at the top of your inventory list. Because if you don't have it in your hand, if you're not walking around with it equipped, then in a combat situation, you have to look for it. You have to find it on your person. That's what finding an item is. You roll 2d6 and you are trying to roll above whatever number that item is on your list.
Inventory management in my RPG?
I know, right?
Fascinating.
Now, for things that you always have equipped, like armor, you'll want to put at the very, very bottom of the list because you are wearing it. You already have it on. You don't have to worry about finding it. What finding an item would mean if you needed to look for armor is if you wanted to take it off and like give it to someone.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
How can we game this?
What should you do here?
Because I'm looking at the rucksack. That's a backpack.
Put that at the very bottom. Yeah, that would be like if you wanted to take it off and throw it at someone. You would have to, like, it's like, how easy is it to get it off of your person into a usable form? And you roll 2d6 for this. So things in the 1, the 2, or the 3 place are essentially automatic. Like, you will find them because a double 1 is an automatic failure. So you'll at least get a 1 and a 2, which is 3. Those are the things that you like need on hand, the first 3 slots. And then it gets harder as you go down. Don't start filling that out yet because you don't know what all your possessions are. You'll get the rest of your possessions in your background. But that's kind of how that inventory works. You'll see there are 12 slots. You can carry more than 12 things, but it is like you get penalized for it pretty severely. If you have more than 12 things, it's like a -4 to all rolls.
Great.
And then if you have more than 18 things, it's a -4 to all rolls. You can barely move and you count as unawares, which means like you aren't seeing people coming to attack you. Stick to 12. If you find something really big, we will revisit those rules. But yeah, 12 things in your inventory. There's some other like combat notes that I put on your cheat sheet. They're things that just like help when we are in combat to navigate stuff like cover and how shields work. I just mentioned unawares, like that, notes on that, but we can address that when we get to combat. Things that I do want to talk about right now, when you roll the best possible outcome. So on a versus roll where you're trying to roll high, that's 2 6s. That's considered a mighty blow and you get to double damage. If you fumble, which is the worst possible outcome, which would be 2 1s if you are in combat, then the person you're fighting against will get extra damage against you. Fumble is also a term that will come up later. It just means rolling the worst possible thing. So like in inventory, when you fumble, it's rolling the 2 1s. You don't get to find your item. The only other thing I wanted to mention off the top combat-wise is that ongoing debilitating effects are called drowning. That's like the example that they give. And they're bad. When they start, it's -1d6 stamina, and then every round after that, it's like an additional d6. So try to get out of ongoing effects as quickly as possible.
Cool.
And you said there's no like increasing our stamina.
There's no increasing your stamina threshold. You can heal, but you can't bump it up.
Cool. This is a game that's not about like leveling up.
Yeah, there are advancement rules, but they are more, if I'm remembering correctly, which I didn't, to be perfectly honest, I focused less on the advancement rules because we're only playing kind of one arc with it. And you have to be in like a rest area to advance. You have to be in downtime, but it's mostly around skills and learning skills.
Copy.
Cool.
Okay, it is time to roll your backgrounds. Okay, so grab your 2d6. Roll 1 for the 10s place, and then 1s for the 1s place. Yes, Mikey, do you have a question?
No, I was also going to say, just in case people didn't see, I uploaded a downloadable, like a fillable character sheet and downloadable cheat sheet.
Incredible, thank you.
Let's see, I didn't decide on which one was the 10s and the 1s. Whoops.
Don't look at the options, just decide right now.
Fuck. I'm going to say 54, because it's close to my favorite number, 55.
Okay, so you are...
Fellow of the Sublime Society of Beefsteaks?
LOL. Okay, the Brawlers. Or do you want to read it since it's your character?
Yeah! Brawler! The Brawlers believe that the way to universal truth lies in the application of might, and in the preparation and eating of a good beefsteak. Words have no power and can no more define the universe than they can build a house, lift a cup, or sear a steak. Might can. Really, they have thought a lot about this. And I get a weapon of my choice, a small gridiron, 2 kilograms of premium meat cuts, a waistcoat, and a bottle of strong but fancy wine. I get 2 in a fighting skill of my choice, 2 in wrestling, 2 in swim, 2 in climb, 2 in run, 2 in fist fighting, and 1 in grilling.
Excellent. So this is an example of a background that has a lot of skills and a lot of possessions. You do not have what's considered a special, that is a special move, or any spells. So like they might seem unbalanced. They're just built differently. Okay. So that's you, and you'll want to write down what you have. I jot down your possessions and then build your inventory. And we'll go over specific weapons after everybody has their background. Okay, who wants to go next?
I can go.
Okay.
I rolled a 52, and that's on page 22.
Cool.
I'm a sorcerer of the Academy of Doors. You are a student at Troika's most prestigious wizarding academy. Pride of the city, experts in pan-dimensional mobility, where I was able to penetrate the 2d6th door. I'm going to roll that now.
Excellent.
I bet it's a really good number. 25th door. I feel like
That
that's good.
can't be right.
2d6?
Oh, no. I read it.
Is it 7?
It's 7. It's 2
Okay.
plus 5.
I was like, that can't be right.
I'm reading it wrong. The 7th door, which is okay, I guess.
Lucky.
You are no master, but few outside your peers can claim to know more about the vagaries of skyward travel than you. So it seems to be a wizard all about transportation and doors and shit.
Yeah.
Traveling. Love that. In my possessions are a small functional door worn on my forehead through which I channel my magic, and flashy robes. 2 things.
Yes. But look at your skills.
So many skills. I have a 3 in astrology, 2 in second sight, whatever that means, 2 in the spell astral reach, 1 in the spell teleport, 1 in the spell web, and then 3 random spells. A lot of spells.
Love it. We are going to talk about spells and weapons. I wanted to see what everybody had, and then we'll focus on what we need. Okay, cool. So Tori, what'd you roll?
I rolled a 66, which I was so excited about until I started reading the background. So this is a zoanthrope.
Wait.
At some point in your past, you decided you didn't need it anymore. You found a zoanthropologist and paid them well to remove your troublesome forebrain and elevate you to the pure and unburdened beast you are today. Possessions? No starting possessions. You have thrown off the shackles of civilization. You are probably nude. You are immune to all mind-altering effects. You are able to speak, but usually choose not to.
If you want to re-roll, you can. But
Wait, you've literally done this before.
This is gotcha.
You've literally done this before.
I feel
you
like
pretended to be a dog.
Yeah. Is that what it means?
Yes.
Yeah, like your forebrain
your frontal
is
cortex.
your frontal cortex that allows for like higher thought and rational thinking. You have removed that, so you only have like the animal brain.
You've lobotomized yourself.
No yapping though.
I know.
You are able to.
You are able to? Oh, okay.
I did already write all of this down, so I might just keep it. And I mean, it sounds like death happens pretty frequently, so worst case, I'll just have a new character.
Well, also, read the special that you have.
You are able to speak, but usually choose not to. When making advancement checks for advanced skills related to abstract thought, such as spells or astrology, you must roll twice and succeed on both to improve.
So it's really hard for you to learn new skills, but the immune to mind-altering effects is cool.
Yes. And then skills, we got a 3 for climbing and running, and a 2 for strength, fist fighting, club fighting, and wrestling.
Love it.
Okay.
Club fighting.
So make sure you're writing your skills down in the little skills section. And now, so we've got a fighter who you get to pick a weapon, and then we've got a spellcaster. So let's go over weapons first. When you roll to use a weapon, you roll normally with it, like rolling unopposed or rolling versus, depending on the situation. And then if you are successful, you roll a d6, and that number will determine how much damage you do. All weapons have an affiliated little like chart, and then you just write down that chart. So if you roll a 2 on a really strong weapon, your damage might be really high because it just shows like a 2 for this weapon means 8 damage. So I'm trying to get to, why am I scrolling instead of clicking?
Characters humans?
No.
Okay.
You are humanoid because they specifically say that you removed your brains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have to be human necessarily.
Okay.
So, yeah, melee weapons and ranged weapons. The table confused me a lot when I first looked at it. But it's that first one is you roll a 1d6. So for a sword, if you roll a 1 on damage, it's worth 4. If you roll a 3 on damage, it's worth 6. See what I'm looking at?
Mm-hmm.
You can pick a weapon that you want. You can also make up your own, and then we would compare it to something similar and like update if we wanted to.
They don't have brass knuckles.
You could put brass knuckles for sure.
I wonder what that would be comparable to.
I think personally, I would want to compare it to, we could split the difference between unarmed and mace.
That makes sense.
Because mace has like the spiky.
Mm-hmm.
What I would do, and feel free to argue it, or actually, I might want to just keep the mace values, but you'd have to be in close range for it.
Right.
That's really fun.
Because I'm like, if I did my 2 in fighting skill and just added it to my fist fighting, and then I had 4 in fist fighting, because I already have 2 in fist fighting, and I also can add 2 to a fighting skill.
Oh,
so if I add the 2 to fist fighting, and then I had brass knuckles, I feel like that would count as fist fighting.
For sure.
Or like the gauntlets.
Or, hear me out.
Yeah.
Like the hex gauntlets that Vi has in Arcane.
Okay, a gauntlet.
Or, I mean, brass knuckles is cool.
I'm good with that. I think that we'll use some kind of punching apparatus. I think that we'll want to use the damage chart for mace. I think that makes sense. That's 2, 4, 4, 6, 6, 8, 10. If you want to jot that down. Which everyone has a knife, so everyone should write down on their little damage area on your character sheet. You write down 2. So when you roll a 1. It equals 2 damage. When you roll a 2, it equals 2 damage. Roll 3, it equals 2 damage. When you roll a 4, it equals 2 damage. And then a 5 is worth 4, a 6 is worth 8, and a 7 plus is worth 10.
And I guess my question for that is, if we're using, for example, I'm using the gauntlets, I have 4 in fist fighting. If I roll, I can't roll below a 5? How does that work?
Let me double check, but I believe that the fist fighting bonus would be specifically for the roll of if it's successful or not. Like if you successfully
so it's like
hit
roll
someone,
to hit, roll for damage.
Roll damage. And when you roll damage, you just roll 1d6.
I see.
However, they do say that some things give bonuses for that, but I don't know if it's like, it says that specifically. Anytime that you use an item or possession, it adds at least 1 to an applicable roll. It has to make sense, but using an item bolsters a roll. Now, we've got the weapon. Let's talk about spells. Anish. Yay! When you roll a spell, first off, you have to have a hand free and you have to be able to talk to cast a spell.
Oh, okay.
That's just unless otherwise specified. That's the general rule. Like you have to be able to move. They cost stamina equal to casting cost. So it taxes your health to roll a spell. And then when you cast a spell, you want to roll under your skill total. So that's that base skill level plus, and I had this wrong, it's not plus casting cost, it's plus your skill level in the spell.
Okay.
A spell skill. And this is a very important thing. If you fumble while casting a spell, so if you're trying to roll under when you're casting a spell, so if you get 2 6s, that's really bad.
Oh.
And you roll on the oops table.
Oh, no.
So if you roll the worst possible thing, specifically when doing magic, you roll on the oops table, and it can be fatal. It can also just be random crap. Like one of the which actually I don't want to tell you what all the options for the oops table are, but a lot of them are quite bad.
Fascinating. I'm looking through the spells I do have right now.
Yeah.
Oops. All berries.
Page 62.
Yeah, they have a list of all the spells.
Do we want to go through each one of them, or do we?
I think that's a great idea to go through at least a couple of them, because then you get to pick.
Yeah, I have 3, and the number besides the spells don't indicate the amount of times I can cast them. It's just what I add to my skill level, right?
When you looked at your background, your backstory, the number next to that is your skill level. When you look at the descriptions of the spell, that's the stamina cost.
Oh.
Yeah. Can you remind me what the first spell that you have is? So I can look at it.
I have a 2 in Astral Reach, and that spell is on page 62.
Love it. So Astral Reach costs 1 stamina to cast.
Okay. And that spell reads, the sorcerers of the Academy of Doors are most famous for this spell. With it, they may reach through any portal into another known receptacle. For example, reaching through a purse into a safe at home many leagues away. This spell only allows partial and temporary translocation. The wizard cannot fully or permanently enter the receptacle. Okay, so it's literally just a little pocket. Yeah. That's fun. Dope. So since I have a 2 in that and my base skill is 5, I'd always have to roll below a 7.
Yeah, you'd have to roll below a 7. And it is okay if you fail. If you fail, you just lose the health. Like you wasted the health. But it's not like... when I first read the rules, I thought that every time you failed, you had to roll on the oops table. And I was like, these bitches are going to die. And then I figured that that's only if you like critically fail.
Okay, perfect. My next spell that I have a 1 in is Teleport, and that's on page 72.
Cool.
This costs 10 stamina. The wizard or designated target travels instantly to any destination within their presence sphere. Teleportees unfamiliar with the destination must test their luck or skill for enemies, or be thrown wildly off course to potentially devastating results. That seems appropriate.
Yeah.
And my final spell is Web, which is on the next page. Costs 2 stamina. Whether this spell opens a portal to the plane of slime or channels the sprites of sickness, all can agree that it is quite disgusting. You blow forth the web from your nose, and all creatures in a cone extending 12 meters before you become trapped unless they test their luck or skill for enemies. Each turn, anything passing through or out of the web must repeat their test or become stuck. And that dries up after 12 rounds. Disgusting.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
12 rounds is many, many rounds. Okay. And then you get to pick 3 more spells. I'll let you do that on your time.
Cool. I do want to point out, I'm not going to tell anybody what spells I pick, but I do want to read the last spell in the spell section. Zed, which has an unknown stamina cost. No one knows what this does, but everyone who casts it disappears instantly, never to be seen again.
So no one knows.
So no one knows.
I do love, now I'm looking at it, there's an undo spell, which is just, it costs double the original spell, and it is undoing that spell.
Hilarious.
It's like, never mind.
That's funny. And it runs contrary to my philosophy.
Yeah. All of the spells that you just said are all roll under spells. There are some that are like attack spells, and those would be a roll versus, which is why I wasn't just like, a fumble is not necessarily rolling 2 6s. It's rolling the worst possible.
Yeah, well, I only have a knife, so I should probably think about an attack spell.
Okay. So.
Just get a spell that you can summon fish and land a whale on top of the enemy.
That'd be cool.
Maybe
cool
someday.
Reference.
That's weapons and spells. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about in this read portion, I'm so sorry, Tori, that you don't have any weapons or spells, but you'll be fine.
I probably should have paid more attention in case I respawn as a character with a weapon.
Yes.
Well,
which you do have a knife, because that's the base starting ones. So we'll talk off the call about what to write down on your list.
Yeah, and you can also probably like fashion a club out of something.
Yeah, like if you pick something up, that would be club fighting.
Sure.
Yeah.
the last thing I wanted to talk about, which I doubt that we'll get
It's not
to.
the Unst Unst Club.
It's not the Unst Club.
What?
I don't know what that means.
Unst.
Oh, okay.
The club.
Oh, I'm with you.
Unst.
You should be at the club with the animal brain. That would be fun.
Go back to the club.
Drop me a
Bear it all.
daycare.
I wanted to talk
Yes.
about advancement and how it works. Advancement happens when you have a while to rest. Advancement checks are able, like you are able to grow skills that you already have. When you succeed on a roll with an advanced skill, just like check next to it, put a tick mark. Because if we have downtime, you can choose 3 of any of those tested skills to try to improve. You roll 2d6 and you're trying to beat your current skill total. If you do, you add 1 to it. So you like bump it up a little bit. And then you erase your tick marks. I have a home rule that is not explicit in the book, and I haven't looked into whether other people do it, of if you have more than 1 tick, like if you've tested your skill a lot, you can add that to your advancement roll. I'm seeing confusion.
Are you looking at my face?
Yeah.
I'm reading spells, and some of these are fucking nuts.
Oh, yeah.
I'm reading the oops table, and some of these are fucking nuts.
The oops table is quite scary, honestly. Like,
yeah, if you roll an 11, you're turned into a pig.
Yeah, you just turn into a pig, which
Fantastic.
I kind of like that magic is very risky. Like, even if you're good at magic and you probably won't fail, you could fumble and have to roll on the, like, it's risky to do magic.
It reminds me a lot of Warhammer.
Oh.
And like its treatment of like magic and stuff.
And then if you want to learn a new skill, like a totally new skill, I think I mentioned earlier, if someone was really good at face painting and you're like, you're really good at face painting, can you teach me that? It takes 1 week of training with someone who has a higher level of skill than you. And then after that week, you can test that skill. And if you fail, you have to spend another week training again. Like, learning new skills takes a lot of time in this game. Okay. Any burning questions about character creation, what you have currently on your sheet?
Nope.
Okay. Can everybody name your characters?
Okay, so I was thinking, I just played a gnoll, which is kind of like a wolf type animal, hyena type animal, so I didn't want to do anything like that. At one point I was thinking octopus, but those are pretty smart, and I wanted something that was a little more brainless and straightforward, like in terms of like time to eat, time to sleep, So I think I'm going to go chicken.
Well, wait a second, Tori. You are humanoid because you did have a frontal cortex that then was removed.
But now I inhabit the mind of a chicken.
Gotcha. I wanted to be clear. I just wanted to be clear that, like, that your body is a chicken.
On all levels except physical.
Physical, you are a chicken.
My character's a chicken. So I'm going to go for Comb is my
Comb.
name. Yeah.
Cute.
Do I have to be naked?
You don't have to
You know
be.
what? I'll be a dude and I'll be Family Guy chicken.
I don't know what that means, but I'm with you.
Like you're in a chicken suit?
No. Well, it's a good question, I guess.
You don't have to be nude. They say you're probably nude, but you don't have to be. That's the other thing. It's a very, like, throw out things that you don't like. There's a lot in this rule book. Like, you were talking about it being cheeky. I find a lot of things in this rule book, honestly, to be, like, a little mean-spirited. And so I'm going to throw out some of that, too.
I know they loved the narwhal bacons at midnight. I just get a feeling they had I mustache you a question merch back in the day.
And hey, that opens up for a lot of wacky shit to play, you know?
What's narwhal bacons at midnight?
It was like
You don't have to
code
know.
word to like tell somebody else you like, what was it? Use Reddit or Tumblr or something?
It's not Tumblr because that's different.
Oh,
Tumblr's, I like your
shoelaces.
What was I saying? Oh. Here,
Your
I got
name is
you.
Comb.
My name is Comb, and if you imagine what it would look like to tar and feather somebody, that's what I'm wearing. Like I've got
Oh my
like
God.
lops of feathers like attached to my bare skin.
Okay. Interesting. Love that. I love your mind.
I like
Okay.
your shoelaces as Tumblr, Mikey.
Yeah. I like your shoelaces. Thanks. I stole them from the president. Who else has a name?
What would Twitter's shoelaces be?
They
Fuck
don't
you,
talk.
buddy.
They don't talk in real life, you know?
Fuck you, buddy.
My name is Alfalfa, the traveling wizard master.
Cool.
Don't chickens like alfalfa? Isn't it like wheat or
Alfalfa
something?
grass, yeah. Okay. And then Mikey, do you have a name?
Yeah, Bridget Bagsworthy.
Can you say that one more time?
Bridget Bagsworthy.
Bridget Bagsworthy. Okay.
Cool.
Well,
Alfalfa, he, him.
Alfalfa, he, him. Comb, it's, I assume.
Okay.
I'm sorry to assume your pronouns.
I think it or he.
Cool.
Bridget, she, her.
Love it. And if we keep in from when we rolled this game, I was planning on using a module created by someone who I still do want to play the module. That is, so you've been thrown down a well. It looks really fun. I would love to play it in a home game. But as I was reading the rules, it is pretty, it's a pretty hefty rule book. And I wanted to really understand it. And I figured that the best way for me to do that was to write my own thing. So I'm very excited to throw these characters into my Troika module, The Waiting Room, in the next episode of this arc, where we will play a module of Troika. So I will see you all at the next side of the table.
Woo!
Will be as fun as cinema or fly fishing.
Are you okay? You okay today?
My fault.
I love this. Hater, read for
Hater arc. Meanwhile, Jess is in the comments
out,
like,
right,
I wish I could play this.
God.
They pissed me off with fly fishing. I don't know why. They really